If you're trying to bulk up for your sport, but the scale hasn't moved in weeks, then you're doing it wrong. So let me show you how to bulk up without screwing up your performance. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Justin, I'm an online fitness coach, and I specialize in helping skinny guys with a fast metabolism to bulk up and gain weight. I've been in the fitness industry for over half a decade, and on this channel, we go over all things bulking. So if you're trying to bulk up and gain weight, go ahead and subscribe. Whether you play football, basketball, lacrosse, rugby, baseball, whatever sport you play, this is the video for you. Most athletes try to bulk up the same way as bodybuilders, but your goal is not being Mr. Olympia. It's improving your athletic performance, so your training needs to reflect that. So in today's video, first we're gonna talk about nutrition, then we're gonna talk about your workout routine, and then we're gonna talk about systemic fatigue and optimizing your recovery. So first, let's talk nutrition. Now, step one is we need to track our calories. I know what you're thinking. Tracking every single ingredient can be kind of overwhelming, especially if you're not even cooking your own meals. If your parents are cooking for you or something like that, then tracking your food can seem kind of unreasonable. But I'm gonna show you a new method. Most people usually have about 3 to 5 meals on rotation. You probably switch from the same breakfast, lunch, or dinners. Usually families will have the staple meals, right? They'll have mom's spaghetti night or taco night or whatever it may be, and keep those meals kind of in rotation. And in the app MyFitnessPal, you have the option to set custom preset meals. So what this is gonna allow you to do is, instead of having to input every single ingredient every single time, instead of putting in pasta, then spaghetti sauce, then meatballs, and all the ingredients for the meal, you just have to do this one time. And then after you do it once, you can just input mom's spaghetti night, and it'll automatically calculate every single ingredient for you just like that. And then all you have to do is input the meals you keep on rotation into preset meals. So you just tap it once and it calculates everything in seconds. So this is how we're gonna ensure that we're eating enough protein to build muscle and eating enough calories to gain size. So we wanna be eating between 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 140 pounds, you should be eating between 112 to 140 grams of protein per day. And by the way, if you get confused at all during this video, just comment your questions down below and I'll be sure to answer them. All right, next, we gotta make sure that we're eating in a 250 to a 500 calorie surplus. And tracking everything is especially important if you wanna maximize your speed. We need to make sure that our calories are controlled, okay? If we put on too much weight too fast, then we're gonna put on body fat, and that's gonna slow us down. And if you're not really concerned with putting on body fat, you just wanna put on as much weight as possible, maybe you're a lineman in football, or you just don't care about putting on body fat, then this is still really important. We still need to make sure that we're tracking all of our food intake to make sure that we're hitting our protein goal. Now, if you have a really fast metabolism and gaining weight just feels impossible, then make sure you subscribe, okay? We post new bulking videos every single week to make sure you understand how to gain weight effectively. Now we're gonna go over our workout routine. Now, our whole training routine needs to revolve around gaining functional size and strength, not just looking good in the mirror. So first and foremost, we need to focus on heavy compound lifts. So some of the best compound movements are squat, bench, deadlift, RDLs, overhead press, bent over rows. These exercises are gonna build functional strength and size. But how often should you actually go to the gym? If you have practice 5 days a week and then you have games on weekends, then going to the gym 7 times a week is not gonna be sustainable. You're not gonna be able to recover from that much training. So your body has a certain amount of systemic fatigue. So here's how that works. If you run a marathon on one day, even though your chest isn't involved, you're not doing any sort of strength training or weightlifting, the next day, if you try to barbell bench, you're not gonna be able to lift much weight. And that's because your systemic fatigue is way too high. And this same concept applies to sports. So if you're practicing 5 days a week and then you also have games on weekends, you have to be careful not to overtrain. Now keep in mind, this changes based on the intensity of the activity. Certain sports are gonna be more demanding than others. So in order to get the most growth possible without overtraining, I'd recommend going to the gym 3 to 4 times per week. But keep in mind, this varies. If you're in the off season, if you don't have a lot of practices, you can bump that up to 5 or even 6 times a week. Or if playoffs are coming up and you don't wanna risk injury, you can bring that down. But you'll know that you're in that sweet spot, you're doing the right amount of training, as long as you're able to use progressive overload on a week-to-week basis. And progressive overload basically just means that we're increasing the weight, we're adding reps, or we're improving our form every single week. And for every rep, we always wanna make sure that we're controlling the eccentric, that's bringing that weight down nice and controlled and slow. And then we're exploding up with as much speed, as much power as possible. And for all of our training, we wanna stay between 3 to 12 reps. Now, I know that that's a really weird and broad range, but here's why. When it comes to building strength, we really want to lift really heavy weight for lower reps, heavy weight for around 3 to 5 reps. But when we want to build mass and gain size, then we want to train with a little lighter weight for around 6 to 12 reps. So we're getting all the benefits of powerlifting style training. That's 3 to 5 reps of really heavy weight to really improve our strength. And we're also getting all the benefits from hypertrophy style training, muscle growth, building size, building mass. So we're gaining strength and gaining size. All right, next we're gonna go over recovery and systemic fatigue. All right, now we're gonna talk about one of the biggest killers that almost nobody talks about. And this is extremely important, especially for people that have a really active lifestyle. If you're doing sports, if you're in the military, if you work in construction, then taking systemic fatigue into consideration is really important. So let's talk about it. The more activities you have, the more exercise you're doing, the more systemic fatigue is gonna build over time. And if you don't take time to manage that fatigue, you're gonna risk injury and you're gonna hit a plateau. So here's the fix. We're gonna do 4 to 6 week training blocks followed by a deload week. But before we go over the whole system, if you're getting some value from this video, it would really help me out if you just like the video. It really supports me and helps my channel. All right, so here's the system. In week 1, our main priority is dialing in our form and finding our work weight. We don't wanna train hard with exercises we're not doing correctly. So we need to make sure that our form is dialed in so we can avoid any sort of injury. This is where you learn the lifts. You're dialing in the form, you're understanding how to do the lifts properly. And then we're also finding our work weight. So this is the weight that challenges you without injuring you. Week 2 to 4 is all focused around progressive overload. So every single week, we're gonna increase our weight, we're gonna add reps, and we're gonna train with more and more intensity. So we're slowly just pushing ourselves harder and harder every single week, walking ourselves up into our peak week where we're gonna train the hardest out of the entire block. And this is where we go all in. We're hitting PRs, we're training to failure, you're pushing yourself to your absolute limits to get the most growth possible. But training that hard is gonna come with a cost. You're gonna have a ton of fatigue that's gonna come on, and you're not gonna be able to do that consistently long term. So week 5 or 6 is gonna be our deload week. And this is where we pull back on the training. We lower the intensity, lower the volume, and let our body recover. Get that systemic fatigue down. So this deload week is gonna prevent us from hitting any sort of plateau, and it's gonna allow us to lower our systemic fatigue so we don't risk injury. Now, if you like this video, you're gonna like this one too. This is going over the biggest bulking mistakes to avoid to make sure you're seeing consistent progress on your next bulk. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Peace.